Hello, YouTubers. Chuck Holler, November 21st, Part 2. Okay, we were talking about the Smitahs, and we're talking about how we've got what's coming up. Looks like a mega Jubilee Smitah timeline. Multiple events pointing towards a particular date. Now, we just touched base a little bit before on how the number 7 seems to be the signature of God. You know, there's the heptadic numbering system shows how the number 7 is wound through the scriptures in such a way that even computers couldn't pull that off. And I don't want to get into that teaching because I don't have time in this particular video. But the number 7 is really important. And I just want to show, let's start with 1994. Lights in the sky, Genesis 1:14. They are for signs. Those are signals. That's a signal. Something's coming. Something's happening. Well, the whole world was in awe when comet Shoemaker-Levi broke into 21 parts and slammed in to the planet Jupiter. And that's 3 sevens, by the way. I hope you listened to the first video to understand where I'm going with the 7s. If you look at some of those explosion dots on Jupiter, and they're still there, by the way, they're larger than the planet Earth. So any one of those fragments would have just taken our entire planet out. So there's 3 sevens. Was that was that God saying that there's 3 Smitahs left? Maybe. Maybe. I'm going to put a link at the end of this video of a chart that shows how the blood red moons, the comets, the solar eclipses, there is a pattern that's happened over a 7-year period that is so unique. It's never happened before. And when you look at the actual chart on it, I think you'll just be in awe. But let me get back to I don't want to get into any speculation today. I'm only talking about facts. There was a fact that the Shoemaker-Levi comet struck Jupiter. It was a fact that the 2 Smitahs, called the largest fall of the Dow Jones in history, and we're just 10 months away from the 3rd Smitah. We'll see. So we had that in 1994. In 96 and 97, we had 2 comets. The Hale-Bopp comet, and there was a Japanese, it was named Hyakuk, something like that. I'm really bad on the pronunciation of that comet. But there was a unique thing that happened. On April 11th, both years, they crisscrossed in the sky. And right where they crisscrossed was a constellation called Rosh Satan, S-A-T-A-N. And they crisscrossed right in the forehead between the eyes, almost like a scope if you were a rifleman, a sniper, to say. Now, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. We'll wait and see if there's anything that happens on a particular April 11th in the future, but it looked like a sign. But let me get back to some other signs. We've got the 4 blood red moons. We're right in the middle of that, folks. I mean, we've had 2. There's 2 left. And the last one is going to be 5 days after a particular date, which let me throw it out there. It's September 23rd, 2015. Now, there's a lot of people out there who are pointing out the significance of this date, and they've been accused of saying it's for the rapture, when in all actuality, they're just saying the same thing I am. Something's going on with that particular date. Last year, Thanksgiving, and we're just a week away from Thanksgiving, there was another sign in the sky. God made a menorah out of comets. And for the first time in history, there had never been over 4 comets in our solar system. And as I started looking at that last year, I even started speculating. I said, you know, wouldn't it be something if there was a fifth? And there was a fifth, and then there was a sixth, and then there was a seventh. And it just so happens God put 7 comets. He made a menorah out of comets. Now, if that doesn't say something, I'm not sure what does. But at the same time, we've got the news media reporting on what was to be the comet of the century, Comet Ison, I-S-O-N. And I made a lot of videos about it because it was supposed to be a very spectacular comet. On Hanukkah, which is celebrated with a menorah, it happened on Hanukkah, which was also Thanksgiving, not going to happen for 70,000 more years. Comet Ison comes around the sun to be at its brightest point, while there are 7 comets in the sky. Now, what did that mean? Well, I'll tell you. I think it was to bring our attention to what Comet Ison really was. Most comets, as I said, Shoemaker-Levi a while ago, and the Japanese one, most comets are named after the astronomer who discovered them. He tacks his name right on there. You've got a lot of comets out there that are named the same name with a number at the end of it because the same astronomer has discovered multiple comets. But all of a sudden, this comet is not named after the astronomer. It's named after the telescope that it was discovered with. And I got to wondering why that was. Well, when I looked up the astronomer's name in the original Greek, the root word was wormwood. And that kind of shocked me. So I punched Ison into Google Translator, and I wanted to see what the Hebrew translation was. Well, one of the words was catastrophe, so I went to the Strong's, looked in Revelation 8, wormwood. The Greek word there in the Strong's was catastrophe. So now all of a sudden, this comet is named wormwood in the Greek and the Hebrew. And it translates. And it's like, you know, Lord, that's almost too coincidental, which we've talked about if there are really coincidences or not. I personally don't believe that there are. So, what is wormwood? Well, when I read the scripture again, and it said there was a, you know what, I just think I'm going to pull that up real quick, only because I don't want to misquote it. And let's see, Revelation 8, and it says, the 11th verse, and the name of the star is called wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Let me go to the verse before. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell on a third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of the waters. So what I'm saying here, how could one rock fall on a third part of the waters? It can't. The planet's too big. I mean, a rock that size would be like one of the Levi Shoemakers. It would take the entire planet out. But something unique happened. Comet Ison disintegrated. And NASA reported that the debris field was so massive that when we went through it, we collected a lot of the debris in our upper stratosphere. Now, this debris was only 3 to 4 microns in size, which meant it didn't fall through and make little shooting stars like you see with other meteor showers and whatnot. And what NASA said was that it was going to just stay up there and slowly work its way down, and it could take months, it could take a year. They had no idea how long it would take. Well, it's been about 10 months, 11 months, I guess. But when that works its way through, it could very easily fall on a third of the waters on this planet. So this is another major sign, folks. This is wormwood. I'm totally convinced this is the wormwood of the scriptures, was Comet Ison. Okay, I've only got about 6 minutes left. Let me try to tie this together. Isaac Newton, probably one of the most respected scientists of not our time, but of any time. He discovered gravity. I mean, come on. It was recently discovered, and this is kept at the Vatican, that his last years, there were more notebooks written by him on the second coming of Christ than he ever wrote on math or science. And one of the things that Tom Horn writes, that he quotes Isaac Newton, is that he learned to speak ancient Hebrew. Not just the Hebrew that's been restored in Israel today, but ancient Hebrew, which he said was a God language, that he believes that that was the language that God spoke into existence, the universe. And he said that he would walk through the woods speaking Hebrew, and the plants would start glowing a brighter green, the grass, the leaves, and then when he would cease speaking it, it would go back to the normal colors. So, this is Isaac Newton. He contemplated counting Jubilee years, what he thought the last Jubilee year would be, because it said God gave man 6,000 years, which was 120 Jubilees. 120 times 50 is 6,000 years. And he told no, I will not always strive with man. It's only allotted 120 years. Nobody lives to be 120. What he was saying was going to be 120 Jubilees for man. And this is the 120th Jubilee, folks. On September 23rd, 2015, it's going to be this anniversary of the 6,000th year. This is the year Adam and Eve were created. This is the day they were created on. It's Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So the first timeline that is pointing towards this date, and it threw me off a little bit because the Smitah and Jubilee goes to September 13th. And I was like, how can all these other timelines go to the 23rd, but the Smitah only to the 13th? Well, when I started reading about Yom Kippur, on every Jubilee year, yes, it ends on Rosh Hashanah, but the Jubilee, the next one, doesn't start for 10 days. So it is September 23rd for the new Jubilee year, even though it ends on the 13th. The Zionist document, August 27th, 1897. This is the first time a bunch of Jewish people got together. They formed a corporation called the Zionist Foundation, something like that. They created a document to bring the Jews back to the homeland. That date, you can count that date all the way to September 23rd. It's exactly 43,200 days, folks. 120 years to the day. That's pretty awesome. That's the second one. Actually, that's the third one. We've got Isaac Newton, we've got the Smitah, and we've got the Zionists. That's three timelines, all pointing towards September 23rd. The fourth one, May 14th, 1948, Israel becomes a nation. You know, Daniel talks about the 69 years, and then we're waiting for the 70th one, which is the tribulation. Well, it's 69 years since they became a nation, September 23rd, 2015. This is the fourth one. The Six-Day War, June 7th, 1967, a Jubilee year. You can count forward 17,640 days to the day, folks, is September 23rd, 2015. And when it comes to the day, you know, that's what Jesus was so upset about, was that, you know, back in Daniel and the other prophets, he gave dates and times. You know, Daniel gives 1,260 days, 1,290, 1,335. He gives us days to count on. If they would have counted back then, they would have known to the day when Jesus went into Jerusalem to present himself as the Lamb of God. To the day, Nisan 10, folks. So the Lord is pretty accurate, and whatever he's doing now to the day, September 23rd, looks like a big day. The final one, Ron Reese from Doves. He was very sure that on October 28th, 2008, that as Obama gave his speech, that was the covenant with the many. Matter of fact, he said 7 times 1 week, and he was making an agreement with the world for change. And if you count forward, 1260, that's 2520, 7 days, 7 years of 360-day years. It's September 23rd, 2015. Folks, the biggest blood moon is going to shine a couple days later from Jerusalem. It's going to be a super blood red moon. It's the fourth one of a tetrad with all these signs converging at the same time. Get your life in order. Choose you this day who you're going to serve. Your rapture could happen today, folks. Get your life in order. God bless you.